All right, guys, today we're looking at lesson 16.3. We're going to be classifying quadrilaterals. I want you to notice that prefix there, quad. That means 4. That means all these shapes are going to have 4 sides. So I'd like to go ahead and flip over to our visual learning bridge on page 594. And let's just see how we can classify quadrilaterals. Quadrilaterals can be classified by their angles or the line segments that make their sides. Which of the quadrilaterals shown have only one pair of parallel sides and which have 2 pairs of parallel sides? So let's take a look and we'll come back to that question. The first one here is a parallelogram. It has 2 pairs of parallel sides. So let's take a look at our pairs. There's 1 pair and there's 2 pairs of parallel sides. A rectangle has 4 right angles and it is also a parallelogram because this side is parallel to this side and this side is parallel to this side. So it has 2 pairs of parallel sides. But it also has 4 right angles. Next we have a square. It also has 4 right angles, so let's go ahead and draw those. And all the sides are the same length. Notice all 4 sides are equal. It is a parallelogram, a rectangle, and a rhombus. And we'll get to rhombus in just a second. But it is a parallelogram because this side is parallel to this one, and this side is parallel to this one. It's a rectangle because a rectangle just requires that it has 4 right angles and it's a parallelogram. So it follows that rule as well. Now let's see why it's a rhombus. A rhombus is a quadrilateral that has opposite sides that are parallel and all of its sides are the same length. It's also called a parallelogram. So with a rhombus, all 4 sides are equal, just like we have in a square. Sides are the same length, and it has 2 sets of parallel sides. So that's why a square can be considered a square, a rectangle, or a rhombus. Now going back to these questions up here, it said which quadrilaterals have 1 pair of parallel sides. We're going to find that answer right now because look at the trapezoid. It says a quadrilateral with only 1 pair of parallel sides. So this is parallel to this, and that is it. It's still a quadrilateral because it has 4 sides. All right, so let's take a look. Oh, and then the other question was which have 2 pairs. That would be all 4 of these examples. So we're going to come back to this, but let's go ahead and look at our guided practice over here. The example that we have up top here says perpendicular sides form right angles. So remember, perpendicular lines are those lines that cross and form those right angles. So perpendicular sides would be this is perpendicular to this side, or this side's perpendicular to this side. And they form those right angles that you see there. Can a trapezoid have perpendicular sides? Well, looking at the example, we can say yes. We know it's a trapezoid because it has a pair of parallel sides. It's 4 sides, and it also has those right angles, which if we read here, it says a trapezoid can have 2 right angles that form perpendicular sides. A trapezoid with 2 right angles is called a right trapezoid. So let's do the guided practice. It says, what is true about all quadrilaterals? Well, let's go back to what we said the prefix meant when we see quad. All quadrilaterals have 4 sides. That is true about every quadrilateral that you'll see. Number 2 says, what is the difference between a square and a rhombus? Well, if we go back to our chart, remember the square had 4 right angles, all equal sides, and it was also a parallelogram because it had 2 sets of parallel sides. The rhombus has 2 sets of parallel sides as well. It has the 4 equal sides, but the one thing it does not have are those right angles. So the difference is a square right angles. That's what makes it different. Number 3, Shane drew a quadrilateral with at least 2 right angles and at least 1 pair of parallel sides. And it wants us to name 3 quadrilaterals that Shane could have drawn. So we need at least 2 right angles. And when we look at our chart, the only 2 that even have right angles on this page are rectangle and square. So those are 2 examples. So we're going to go ahead and write rectangle, square, and we need 1 more. And if you remember up here, we learned about the right trapezoid. So it's a quadrilateral that has 2 right angles and it has at least 1 set of parallel sides. So we're going to say a right trapezoid. All right, so the do you know how? It says for 4 through 7, write all the names possible for each quadrilateral. Whew, we're going to get some writing here. Now, the independent practice you'll do on your own in just a moment, but let's take a look at number 4. Looking at this shape, I can tell that it is a rectangle. It has 4 sides, so it is definitely a quadrilateral. And it can't be a square because a square has to have 4 equal sides, and therefore it can't be a rhombus either. We know a trapezoid has 1 set of parallel sides, and this has 2. But it does have 2 sets of parallel sides, so therefore it can be considered a parallelogram. Put 1 too many L's there. That's okay. All right, number 5. And let's just go ahead and just say that all 4 of these shapes that you see here are quadrilaterals. We could go ahead and put quadrilateral for each one of these because they all have 4 sides. So I'm going to go ahead and knock that out for all of these. But I need to go back and see if I can come up with some other names. So this shape right here, it does not have right angles, so therefore it cannot be a rectangle, it cannot be a square. So the question that I have is, could it be a rhombus? A rhombus says it has to have parallel sides the same length, and that one does not have 4 equal sides. And it has 2 sets of parallel sides, so it can't be a trapezoid. So the only thing left is that it is a parallelogram. Next we have our square, so it's definitely called a square. It has 2 sets of parallel sides, so it's a parallelogram. And it does have the 4 right angles with the 2 sets of parallel sides. So remember, a square is also considered a rectangle. So we have quadrilateral, square, parallelogram, rectangle, and we learned that a square is also considered a rhombus because it has 2 sets of parallel sides and the 4 equal sides. Number 7 is called a quadrilateral because it has 4 sides, but if you notice, there's no sets of parallel sides, there's no right angles, so the only thing we can call this shape right here is a quadrilateral. Alright, so I want you to do the independent practice on your own and check the answer key to see how you do with those. And then we're going to go over just a couple problems on the back. We're just going to do the assessment practice at the bottom. It says to select all the possible names for the shape below. And if you look back at your chart, you'll see that this shape looks like a trapezoid. So we're going to go ahead and mark that trapezoid. Can it be a quadrilateral? It has 4 sides, so that's definite. A rhombus is supposed to have 4 equal sides, so it doesn't follow that rule. A parallelogram has to have 2 sets of parallel sides, and this shape only has 1 set. And a rectangle has to have right angles, so it can't be a rectangle either. Alright, and then which shape has only 1 pair of parallel sides? Well, we can look at our shape over here, And we're going to ask ourselves, is that a rhombus, a square, a right trapezoid, or a parallelogram? If you remember from our other page, the right trapezoid had those right angles with one set of parallel sides. So it has to be that right trapezoid. Alright, so now you learned a lot about quadrilaterals. Don't forget that prefix quad means 4, so it's any 4-sided shape. Y'all have a good day.